So hi everybody, thanks so much for coming to today's faculty show and tell. I'm Tammy Couples, Executive Director for Online Learning, and I'm joined by my awesome team, Jose Diaz, Online Learning Manager, and Antonia Blatchford, our coordinator. We like to do these little events once or twice a year, and we try to keep it small. We only invite online and blended instructors rather than all the faculty so that you can get a close-up look at what other online courses or online learning activities look like. So I think that beyond the online and blended instructor training that you do, and maybe some one-on-one sessions with Jose that are focused on your courses, many of you don't get to see what works for other instructors and what innovations they are coming up with and what tools they find effective and so on. So our hope is really that even the most seasoned online instructors can learn something from touring another professor's course. And today we're welcoming 3 professors who are actually sharing student work, which is so fun. Jose has been working with all 3 professors in developing digital storytelling assignments to engage students with their course material. And he thought the work they were doing was just too good not to show off a little. So huge thanks to Professors Mario Valero, Nancy Eder, and Martin Felix for coming today. I know it's not easy to find this block of time in the middle of this crazy semester. Martin will share work from his course Intro to Caribbean Studies, I think it is. Nancy will share from 2 courses, East Asian Art and Art and Civil India. And Mario will share from his course, Revolution as Spectacle, Mexico. So, Jose, did you want to say a little something before we jump in?
Sure, Tammy, thank you. I just wanted to just talk a little bit of the background of how this assignment or this project came about. So basically, stories are everywhere. Telling stories is one of the most powerful means that leaders have to influence, teach, and inspire. When we go to movie theater, we cry, we laugh, and we jump off our seats, at watching a movie or reading a newspaper or magazine. There's stories everywhere. Our parents and our grandparents tell us stories from when they were young. We listen to stories about love and heartbreak through music. And traditions are passed down from generation to generation in a lot of the cultures around the world through story. We as humans are addicted to stories. Even when the body goes to sleep, the mind stays up all night telling us stories. So if you have one too many paper assignments in your class, and you might want to consider converting one of those assignments into a digital storytelling assignment that allows your students to tell the story using this multimodal approach. And then lastly, I just want to thank, Tammy just thanked Nancy Eder, Mario Valero, Lorenzo Wong, Martin Felix, and also Professor Lorenzo Smith, who was one of the first professors here at FIT that I worked with on this assignment. And so that's basically what I just wanted to say a few words on that.
I worked on this project with Jose for a very long time. He had told me about Lorenzo's assignment, and we built it up from there. And I teach art history, so I thought that having like I call them mini documentary videos, I thought that would be a great break from having to read papers, and because they use visuals, it would be more interesting for students, and it's something creative that they could do. So Jose and I worked on this for months with it. I call Jose my best friend, because I am always like contacting him with like these stupid, ridiculous questions, which end up to not be stupid after all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share, I created a, you could all see me, right? Where am I? Office of Online Learning. So let's get to my Chrome tab, and I'm going to share this with you guys. So here is the rubric that I created. This is the instructor view, of course, of my Blackboard class. And I was also super, super proud of this rubric. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, oh my God, I have to do a rubric. And so what makes this storytelling is just in the criteria you can see, it's just like a mini version of what I want them to do. So they have to have a well thought out thesis, and that there needs to be a clear beginning, middle, and end to the theme. It should be well researched. The narrator should speak clearly, etc., etc. So do you guys want to see a couple of these? Thumbs up. Anybody want to see some? And I chose, I chose 5. So I don't know. I probably have time. Yes. Did somebody have their hand raised, or just wanting to see it? Patrick, you want to see it, right? So
yes, I wanted to see it as well. Yes.
All right, the thumbs up to want to see it. The other thing is, because my classes are always 3-point classes, I do have them do a transcript and a bibliography, so that kind of counts as the paper part. But let me show you, like, these students are so good. So just here you can see that it's Bridal, Mendy is what this is about, and here's her transcript and her works cited, but I'm going to just play the video for you. I'm going to do full screen. So wait for it to come up. And here we go.
The History of Bridal Mendy. This short documentary will explore the ancient history of bridal Mendy in India, a long-standing tradition that is still used today in pre-bridal ceremonies in many countries. Bridal Mendy is an important artistic tradition in Indian culture and a vital part of the marital preparations for brides-to-be. Mendy, also known as mehandi and henna, is a paste made from the leaves of a henna plant. Mehandi is derived from the Sanskrit word meaning mendika. The henna plant is a perennial shrub that thrives in arid climates with well-drained soil. Typically found in Egypt, India, Iran, some tropical parts of America, and along the African coast of the Mediterranean Sea. The leaves are dried out and grounded into a paste. Sometimes coffee, tea, cloves, lemon, essential oils, and sugar are added to enhance the color and longevity of the paste. The leaves produce a robust red dye that stains the skin and hair. Mendy can last on the skin from 1 to 4 weeks. Mendy serves multiple purposes, but one tradition in particular that dates back to 5,000 years ago, bridal Mendy. Some scholars claim that the earliest documentation of henna uses was found in ancient Indian texts and images, indicating that mehandi as an art form may have originated in ancient India. Others claim that decorating the body with henna was brought to India by the Mongols in the 12th century. But according to the New York-based Mehandi artist Sharmin Samantha, the earliest signs of henna application appear in Egyptian mummies, whose hair and nails were stained with the reddish-brown tones of henna. However, India is credited with popularizing the use of Mendy. Naomi Sienna, a doctoral candidate from the University of Minnesota who blogs on Jewish henna rituals, says that there is evidence to prove that Mehandi patterns in India date back to at least the Mongol period. Mendy is used as a relaxing activity for the bride the night before her wedding. It is applied to her nerve endings to keep her stress levels under control. Historically, the bride was kept in confinement before her wedding day to keep her safe and well rested. Today, the ceremony used to remove the bride from her electronic distractions and just be in the moment. The Mendy ceremony is traditionally done by a happily married family member or friend in the bride's inner circle. Over time, Mendy has become an art form. Brides now book professional Mendy artists to do their bridal designs. Indian Mendy is characterized by fine lines, lacy floral, and paisley patterns covering their hands, arms, feet, and legs. Brides ask the artist to hide their partner's initials in the designs, a long-standing tradition. A wise old tale once said that the darker the Mendy is, the happier your marriage will be, hence why brides request super dark Mendy. Mendy artists have started to develop a cult following, but the one thing that hasn't changed is the spirit of the Mendy evening. What began as an informal event where the women of the household would come together to shake a leg and share secrets of marital bliss with the bride-to-be continues to remain as precisely that. While it has become more glamorous, Menhandi nights, fun, casual vibes, is still the same as it used to be. India is one of the very few countries that continue to practice many ancient traditions stemming from garments to food to religious practices. Bridal Mendy was a low-key ritual in ancient times done before the wedding night. The 21st century in South Asia, with the development of internet and social media, grew the popularity and respect of Mendy artists. Mendy art has expanded across the globe, inspiring everyone with its partially permanent effects and gorgeous patterns.
So what I loved about this video, if you heard when she's talking about her point, she's fitting in like so-and-so who blogs about Jewish Mehendi rituals said XYZ, and I thought this was really well done. It was, are you guys all familiar with the PBS shorts? There's the short, well, there's the history of everything, which I love. There's the art lesson. There's a short history of the theater. And, just put in a plug for PBS. Of course, my husband works for Channel 13, our PBS affiliate. So we have the PBS app on our Apple TV. But this, to me, really reminded me of that. And actually, let me make sure you also notice how I set up the Padlet in my class, because I also designed what I wanted the Padlet to look like so it reflects East Asian art in this case, even though that was from the India class. So let me just share that tab with you again, because I also thought about this, which is, if you notice, on the background of my Padlet is Hokusai's Under the Wave off Kanagawa, which is commonly known as the Great Wave. And even this little ox here is because it's like it's the year of the ox or the year of the cow. So I will incorporate that into what I'm doing. So the second one I want to show you is from also I have to tell you, I have learned so much from these because the students are really on the pulse of pop culture, or they have like a variety of interests. The second one is about Vocaloid music and its importance in Japanese culture. So I loved this one too. So just give me a moment to call that up, and I will share that screen with you as well in a sec. Well, I feel like we're back to the pandemic. Let's stop sharing this screen. Oh, I don't want to share files. Come on, people. Nope. I want to share my tab. Here we go. So Vocaloid and its importance in Japanese culture. So let's start.
A crash course on Vocaloid music. What is it, and why is it more than what you may think? When you hear the word Vocaloid, chances are you think of this, or maybe these characters. What you may not know, however, is just how much the introduction of the Vocaloid software impacted a new generation of music and sparked a sprawling community of both artists and fans. Let's get into some background info. What is Vocaloid? Vocaloid is a voice synthesizing computer software. It is essentially a voice bank that you can use like a synthesizer. It was first introduced by the Yamaha Corporation in 2004. It didn't gain much traction, however, until the introduction of Vocaloid 2 in 2007 as developed by Krypton Future Media. Vocaloid 2 is what gave us Hatsune Miku, with Krypton Future Media marketing these new voice banks as characters with a personality. As you can tell, this was a huge hit. Vocaloid became popular almost entirely on a website called Nico Nico Doga. It's like a Japanese YouTube for hobby-themed content such as anime and games. It was here where the Vocaloid community grew, with more and more individual creators starting to upload their own songs using the Vocaloid software. But why is Vocaloid important? You may have a hard time understanding why so many fans would be so passionate for a virtual singer. My answer to that is the people and social climate behind it. Despite Japan having the second largest music industry in the world, just like for any country, the road to mainstream success is a long and treacherous one. Combine that with a society that constantly beats down on an individual's self-worth, and what you get is a sea of people who are talented and want to pursue music, but don't have the means to. That can mean a lot of things, such as not wanting to give up your whole future, to not having the face or vocals to make it in the mainstream. To many of these people, Vocaloid was the perfect outlet to turn to. Now anyone could upload a song they made on the internet without ever having to reveal their real name or face. And if it was a good song, it often got them the success it deserved, thanks to their ever-growing fandom. Another important factor that contributes to Vocaloid's cultural importance is its ability to freely discuss taboo topics in Japan. Due to the nature of its content being mostly underground as well as being fairly frowned upon in the mainstream, what Vocaloid ends up becoming is a gathering of all sorts of socially marginalized people. What can't be said out loud in mainstream music can now all be expressed through Vocaloid: depression, suicide, eating disorders, abuse, LGBTQ, and more. Feeling out of place and feeling like a failure among society is also constantly reiterated in Vocaloid songs. Here are just some examples of the unique stories told through Vocaloid. My R by Kurage P is a song about a girl facing her suicidal thoughts and hardships in her life. Lost Ones Weeping is a famous song by Neru that criticizes the harshness of the Japanese school system. Call Boy by Shudo is about being consumed by alcohol and not facing yourself and your flaws. Of course, not every song has such a narrative, and most people do not specifically aim to make music about these things on purpose. As songwriters, they are writing what makes the most sense to them in a community that welcomes it, their own lived experiences. It is not a stretch to say that Vocaloid has a strong influence on Japan's mainstream music scene. In fact, one of its most popular is Kenshi Yonezu, who started off as a Vocaloid producer and was one of the most significant figures there. Not just Yonezu, but there are many other Vocaloid-born musicians or bands that are currently leading the J-pop scene, such as YOASOBI and Yorushika. Right now, they are shaping a new generation of music among Japan's youth. So while Vocaloid may be seen as silly or embarrassing from the outside, it's important to know that it is much more than just singing virtual characters. There are reasons for its popularity that go beyond what it may seem like from an outsider. Vocaloid is a voice for the voiceless, and its music and online community propelled it from being just another computer software to a tool for self-expression and creativity. Thank you.
I didn't realize my mic is on. That one was great. I learned so much from this. I mean, I knew about Hatsune Miku because I really into Japanese things. So do you guys want to see one more? Yes, no? I mean,
yeah, it would be good. It would be good, Nancy. I mean, you have till 1:05, including questions. So.
Oh, okay. So I can show. Yeah, this one was great too. I'm telling you, people, I love this assignment. It's amazing.
Really nice.
I mean, I really literally have learned so much, you know. This one is about writing. So I was just like, oh my God, I didn't even know about this. So Marumoji and Yarumoji. Let's see what the student has to say. A rebellion of cute.
Hi, this is Samantha Ray, and today we're going to talk about the script forms of Marumoji and Gyarumoji and their use as a form of rebellion against feminine ideals in Japanese society. But before we can really analyze these scripts in context, we need to go into a very brief overview of Japanese calligraphy and the Japanese writing system. The Japanese art of calligraphy, known as shodo, dates back to around the 6th century, when it was introduced from China. However, despite its Chinese origins, Japanese calligraphy began to develop its own tradition as it adapted to use with Japanese script, and the art form became closely linked to Zen Buddhism. The tradition of Zen calligraphy is a way of bearing one's emotions and is seen as providing a path to enlightenment. The modern Japanese writing system uses 3 types of scripts: hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Hiragana and katakana are syllabic alphabets that comprise kana, whereas kanji is a logographic writing system based off of written Chinese. There's also an important 4th character set we need to talk about called romaji. And yes, it's basically English. Romaji is the romanization of the Japanese written language. It's also the primary method of Japanese input for word processors and computers, which is to say that in Japan, Japanese is typed primarily by typing in the romanization and then selecting the appropriate characters. And with that background information out of the way, we can finally discuss emoji and emoji. Emoji is distinctively round strokes, literally means round figures. Notice how the strokes have rounded edges, similar to the very recognizable Comic Sans font in English, known for being a font with silly and informal connotations. Marumoji quickly spread among students in the late 70s and reached the height of its popularity in the 80s. The 80s were the first digital era of pop culture in both the US and Japan. As you can see, the Japanese were being subjected to a lot of computerized fonts of writing that broke with the traditional rules of Zen calligraphy, and Marumoji was no exception. However, Marumoji was particularly popular amongst girls. Marumoji was thought to have originated as a result of the growing use of mechanical pencils in school writing and the growing market for stationery. The personalization of the writing style also had close connections with the culture of letter and diary writing amongst girls. Marumoji also owes a great deal of its popularity to Hello Kitty, which marketed itself with a similarly styled font as you can see in this 1980s Hello Kitty comic. The association of Hello Kitty to this era of stylized writing also gave rise to kawamoji, the style of writing with cute faces and intermittent doodles. Despite how cute the writing was, the style was actually seen as socially deviant and was banned from schools. The wider and more patriarchal culture viewed the script negatively and considered it deeply infuriating. This annoyance is demonstrated in a comic by the artist Oma Shobo of a man's annoyance from a woman's letter written in the Marumoji script. Despite Marumoji's fall out of popularity, eventually another form of girl script would reappear in the form of gyarumoji. Gyarumoji is a script that formed from a combination of Japanese characters, romaji, and other keyboard symbols, including the Cyrillic alphabet. The rise of gyarumoji, aka girl graphs, arose during the flip phone era in the early 2000s. The script form arose from girls experimenting with the many sets of characters available for use in SMS. The distinctive gyarumoji exists primarily as substitutions of foreign symbols for existing kana and common kanji in the written Japanese. In this chart, we see the kawamoji from the 80s imported into this digital writing system. Due to gyarumoji's use of many keyboards, a message in gyarumoji could take twice as long to produce as standard Japanese, and was seen as a sign of affection between girls who took the extra effort to write these messages to each other. Like Marumoji before it, gyarumoji is met with similar levels of cultural disdain, as seen by this rude meme I came across in my research. Gyarumoji is given the name hetamoji, meaning unskillful characters by other observers. Gyarumoji unnerve adult expectations for written Japanese. They believe the users are turning to the ugly because they lack the discipline of calligraphy. Some interpret gyarumoji users to be oppressed by graphic imperialism and forced into using English characters. Most find the language to be unfeminine and unsightly. In a 2019 study published in the Journal of Women's Studies that interviewed Japanese women about gender roles, the consensus was clear that a Japanese woman's primary perceived role in society is to be wives and mothers. As such, they are expected to be modest, passive, and not expressive in order to be seen as desirable wives and good mothers. Women are also expected to be as beautiful as possible and to not be unsightly in any way. One interviewee even said, "Women can't sit down with their legs open." Though we may associate cuteness with femininity in America, the loud cuteness of kawaii culture in Japan is seen as an absolute rejection of passive femininity central to Japanese culture. While critics of gyarumoji have argued that the writing form has been imperialized by its use of romaji, the use of appropriated Cyrillic and other invented kawamoji suggests that young girls are developing their own creative language out of a need for self-expression. The prevalence of marumoji in the 80s and gyarumoji in the early 2000s in female subcultures despite their rejection by wider society, suggests a public unwillingness by its users to conform to notions of traditional Japanese culture and femininity.
That was great.
So that was another excellent one. She had a couple of misspellings in it. Like, for example, she misspelled Buddhism. She misspelled something in her bibliography, but I thought that was excellent. And the idea that these writing systems are really used to kind of hit down the patriarchy was really fabulous, because I mean, in Japan there's this whole thing with kawaii culture, but it's really subversive. So so well done. So those are 3 of the assignments that students have done, and I just, like I said, every time I give this assignment, I learned so much. And I set the Padlet up in the class so other students could look at each other's work, even though I really don't think they do that because they're so busy. But it's still.
I was going to ask that, Nancy. Do they have any requirement to look at each other's work, or is there any discussion of each other's work?
No, I don't require it. I have my in-person classes do this as well. In the in-person class, we don't really have time with the lectures, and online they're doing quizzes, they're doing discussions, they do this assignment, and I actually also have them do an extremely short paper on technique. So there's really no time. I just didn't know how, like maybe other professors have a way to figure out how to integrate that. In both of them, that's a really good question. And all 3 of them, the students choose music themselves. Not everyone does, but they just will go to a free source of music and they put the musical background in. And the reason why I also liked these 3 to present is I make it 4 to 5 minutes in length. If they want to go longer, great. But we all know students, even to get 4 minutes is a lot for people. And these were all within the 5-minute time frame. They all use music as background. They all referred to their sources while they were narrating the videos. And they also, I forget if the second one did or not, but at least the first and the last one actually showed you their bibliography at the end of the video. So I just thought these were great, like that's what you want, like the best example of this. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Nancy. That was really wonderful to see. So just let's move on. We have Martin and Mario. I was going to do like maybe if you could do 20 minutes each with 5 minutes each for questions, that would be great, just in keeping the time. We have till 2 o'clock. So I guess, is it Martin going next, or?
I can if that's the order.
Either way, whatever you prefer.
Yeah. Okay, so I really, first of all, I want to commend the online learning team, and particularly, I don't want to single out, but Jose in particular, you know, in terms of his support throughout this whole process, and
Yeah.
And really an exemplary teacher, you know, and I learned a lot from him, both in terms of methods and you know, the applications, you know. So the lockdown has accelerated the growth of, you know, computer assisted instructions, and that has already, you know, this is something that was already happening at the beginning of the 21st century. But there are large numbers of studies on digital storytelling itself and their effects on learning. Particularly Gen Z, they are learners born with that, with technology, particularly, the Web 3.0. And it is usual for them to use digital applications in their everyday lives. So making our teaching more technology integrated, technology driven, and interesting, I think it's really something that I welcome, and the students have welcomed as well when I introduce the idea of digital storytelling to them as part of this particular fall Introduction to Caribbean Studies class. I teach Introduction to Caribbean Studies, and I've been teaching this course for a number of years, both online and offline, and so face-to-face. So, I really welcome this opportunity to share some of my experience. And this course, we were sort of forced to go online because in the midst of my teaching in 2000, March 2020, 2020, we were forced to go online, and so I had to scramble to find some of these tools. And as I said, the online learning team were tremendously, helpful and assist me in that transition. So I've been playing around for quite some time with this whole idea of using digital forms of students, assessment of students, as well as, in terms of students' projects. The really first attempt that I made in terms of doing something that is somewhat like digital storytelling was during the lockdown. We had a class and that used the final product of the group work as a means of presenting, showcasing a PowerPoint of their particular class, their group work findings. And so I welcome this opportunity to go online with the digital storytelling. And so I'm very happy to share some of what I've been thinking. I borrowed a lot from Nancy Elder in terms of her particular, her architecture, her setup of the digital storytelling format. And Jose was very generous in showing me some of the other professors' works as well, for Mario as well. And so this year is my first year in doing digital storytelling. So I have nothing to show in terms of students' work as digital storytellers. But I do have, as I said, that group work presentation. I just wanted to show some of what the students have done. So my class is organized in a way that I have the students grouped in 6 Caribbean groupings, and I have a model that I have created. So I have a sort of like a fake group. I'm with 3 ghost students, and the particular group that we have is a Central American group that is not studied in the course. So it really provides a good opportunity for them to model my demos. And so the Isthmus countries of the Central American region very much related to the Caribbean in some ways, but we don't cover it in Introduction to Caribbean Studies. It's a very, it's a very tight course, and we only have 15 weeks, right? So we can't cover everything. So this is, I did this little demo to show the students, to illustrate to them how, an idea of how this can be done. I'm not going to play the entire thing, but first of all, Jose showed me how not to do this here, so I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go back and, right, Jose, I'm going to do the
Oh, Yeah, you can share the screen with us, Martin.
Oh, I'm not sure.
No.
Thanks. But yeah, let's do this the right way here. And yeah, patient screen. So I thought I was showing you all along.
There we go.
Anyway, so yeah. So there we are. So what I was indicating before is this grouping that I have the students working in 6 Caribbean groups, and I have a dummy group, a model based on the countries of Central America, the Isthmus region. And so this is my group here. And so this is the place where I usually give the students model of how things should be done, and so in the presentation that they did with the group work, this is an example.
Hi, I am Martin Felix. I am Winthrop Over. I am Elise Yen. I am Diana Lucas. We represent the Central American Isthmus countries of the Caribbean region. Before we begin to say anything further, we have to recognize that the people that were the first people of this region were the Aztec and the Mayan people. But let's proceed and get back to this a little bit later. The Federal Republic of Central America was one country that consists of all of these nations from 1823 to 1841. Today, these are thriving republics. All of the countries of Central America, except for Belize, are republics. And if you look at the chart, you will see that the population will range from 12 million in Guatemala, which is the largest country in terms of population, and Belize being the smallest country in that region with only with less than 300,000 people. So it's very diverse.
So this is a sense of how I've modeled what's to be done, and I'll show you some of the students' work. So there's a rubric that guided students in these presentations. So this is a presentation style work. It's not it's not a documentary work, but I just really want to take it a step further to integrate the digital storytelling this time around. So this is where we were last semester, and this is the students' work.
Okay,
there we go.
Good. All right, hold on, and we're ready? Go. Hi, we are the Windward Islands. I am the spokesperson, Ajali Visham.
My name is Kia Ward. I'm the leader.
My name is Zoe Maloney. I'm the timekeeper.
And we have a secretary, Brianna Finlay, but she is not here at this moment. Next slide. The islands of the Windward groups are Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Dominica, and Barbados. Next slide. So a little bit of background for each country and each island. Trinidad and Tobago, main language is English. Secondary language is Trinidadian English Creole, Tobagan, the Creole, and Trinidadian Hindustani. Sorry. The capital city is Port of Spain. Population is 1,403,375. They are ranked 67 out of 189 in the United Nations Human Development Ranking. Grenadian,
So they
Grenadian,
so they
the capital city is St. George. The population is 112,523. Although we don't have a more recent ranking, but as of 2017, they are ranked 75 in the United Nations Human Development. The current COVID-19 morbidity rate is 0. The main ethnic and racial population of this island is 82.4% Afro-Grenadian, 13.3% mixed, and 2.2% East Indian. St. Lucia, of course, main language is English. Secondary language is St. Lucian Creole French. The capital city is Castries.
So you got the idea. So this is basically a presentation of their particular group. The groups are sort of like loosely defined. So it's close to what the actual sub-regional groupings are, but it's just a means of getting the students to be familiar with a set group of countries in the region. So these are not political groupings as such, but it's just for the convenience of having the students focus on a particular set of countries. So there are 6 of these groups. So in terms of the digital storytelling, well, let me just go back here a bit. So there were 6 presenters in this group, in this class, and they were all broken down, as I said, in these 6 groups. So for the digital storytelling, the idea is to have each student do their own presentation. So the digital storytelling is very much in line with what Nancy presented. I modeled from her, and so this is how the course is organized, and I will get to the particular digital storytelling component in a second. So my course is organized in these, among these units. So first we get into the issue of the importance of Caribbean studies. And once you click in here, you get into the assignment, and it's organized in this manner. And the central focus is the assessment. So everything, all of the readings are related to the particular delivery of the assessment at the end. This is a Padlet, an audio presentation in the second week of class on Caribbean uniqueness. Okay, why is the Caribbean unique? And so the second unit, the Caribbean contours and contacts, the actual geology of the Caribbean, the geography, and some of the early, the first contacts, the first people and first contacts with the Europeans. Then we get into the African enslavement, Caribbean language and linguistics, and now we're at the issue of Caribbean development, some of the main theoretical aspects of Caribbean development, some of the theories of development, and so on. And so here, the final project, this is how I laid it out. So, as I said, very much modeled on Nancy's structure, and the students will eventually submit their final video presentation here. I sort of like scaffold it a bit so that they can that they wouldn't be intimidated by all of the text, but there is actually a folder that they can go into and see the entire narrative. This is about it. So if you wanted to get in here, you first pick a Caribbean country or issue to be studied. I have a range of topics, possible research topics, based on the years of teaching this course. So I have a Google folder so the students can go in there and see which ones they may be interested in terms of topics. They're not obligated to use these topics, but they're just suggestions. So this is a step-by-step sort of like outline that the students will go through when we meet the next time. And I also send them out a Google Doc form, actually a Google form, asking for their permission to share their videos once it's finally created. And so far, I've gotten some good responses. So this is the script idea, again, much of it modified from Nancy. And the requirement, there's the Purdue MLA and APA site is attached here, and the final. So this is my short presentation. You know, I am hoping that at the end of all of this, we can continue to share and share best practices and get a sense of like what worked and what can work better. You know, as we continue to build, you know, these experiences and practices. We perhaps can do a survey of the students that are involved in this process and see what their thinking is, you know, what, as I said, what worked, what didn't work, what can work better. You know, how do they evaluate us? You know, how do they assess us, you know, in terms of that particular, you know, project, that particular application of their learning.
Thank you, Martin. So interesting. I just wonder, the very first presentation you showed, was that synchronous? It was, as Mario was pointing out, it's so spontaneous. Was it a live presentation or that was recorded as well?
It was recorded.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, they were all great. I didn't realize both Nancy and Martin were using Padlet so much, but it's a really great way to display all this. Does anybody have any other questions? Yeah. What was that, Martin?
I find Padlet to be very, very useful for, you know, displaying information and having students work with each other, collaborate, and to, you know, for these kind of expositions, you know, the display of the videos, you know,
yeah,
I have it live on Padlet and so that students see each other's work.
Right, that's wonderful. That's another thing Jose brought to everybody, and I feel like it's really taken off since he's been showing. So we have some questions. I think Patrick had his hand up first. Patrick, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Martin, what program do you use to pre-record your lectures?
Oh, I use Padlet itself. You know, it's very short, but when I intend to do like a short, you know, a short mini lesson, I use Padlet, but I also use YouTube. I record in my YouTube channel. I also use PowerPoint itself, PowerPoint to record my presentations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Did Renee also?
Yeah. I put it in the chat. Well, I also want to tell Patrick, I actually use VoiceThread and Screencast-O-Matic to record my lectures for my online classes because they're built in and they also can be ADA compliant because of the closed captioning. But I saw Martin, has anyone ever done their presentation on Bob Marley? I saw your little Bob Marley image. I'm just curious about that.
Not directly on Bob as yet, but he's definitely one of the figures like Bob Marley, reggae, Rastafari. These are some of the issues that will be raised in the later part of the course when we look at Caribbean religious expressions and Caribbean cultures and Caribbean intellectual contribution. So, but yes, definitely Bob Marley would be a great subject. Will be, in terms of his impact on the world in terms of his particular philosophy. And
it's still going with his kids. I mean, he's still huge, and also all of his children are musicians. I mean, it's incredible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just reggae itself, and in terms of as a Caribbean expression, is a huge issue in the course. We look at that, and Bob Marley, but just Rastafari in particular, as a Caribbean, an indigenous Caribbean expression, Caribbean religion, is something that we look at. And so over the years, students have looked at Caribbean culture, like, Caribbean music, Caribbean religious expression, like Santeria, Candomblé, Obia, Vodun, and so on. But in terms of reggae and Bob Marley, students have looked at reggae as an expression of which Bob Marley was actually chronicled as well.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to say, Tammy, that Martin, we would love to see some of your students' presentation, their stories as this semester, come back and show us some more later on.
Yeah, part 2.
Yeah, part 2. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Patrick asked a question, and Isabella also has her hand raised. Patrick's question is in the chat. Is Eric Williams' work included in your classes?
I have included Eric Williams' work, Capitalism and Slavery, like excerpts from the book. It's just it's a very dense text. There's a lot of empirical work that is done. But one of the things that I've been doing is using an application called Hypothesis. Hypothesis is a great tool as a social annotation tool with students, so that students can actually interrogate the text together and share their findings and help each other. And I found it to be very useful. So we use Hypothesis for texts of that nature. But yes, Eric Williams is definitely a very important text. Very important text.
And Isabella, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I was just curious. Can you guys see me? I don't know why I'm having trouble. Oh,
now
okay.
we can.
Say hi, Patrick. Hi, Martin. It's so nice to see you. Hi, Mario. Hi, everybody. So I have when I assign Padlet presentations to my students in the online, I have them go through. Maybe it's just too complicated. I asked them to do it using either PowerPoint or Keynote, record their presentations, export them as movie, upload them to YouTube, and then I asked them to upload the YouTube in the Padlet. But it seems, if I'm understanding what you're doing, Martin, it works just as well to ask them to do something directly in Padlet and skip all these steps. Am I correct?
Yes, Padlet is very flexible, and there's an upgrade. I'm not sure if you have the upgrade. Jose can speak better to this, but there's an upgrade that allows you to directly, upload YouTube and other such applications in Padlet. Yes, students can actually record in Padlet itself.
Right.
They're just limited in terms of time. I think the maximum is a 5-minute
Right.
recording in Padlet itself. But it's just, as I said, it's very flexible. It lends itself to marrying a variety of different applications.
Right, right.
I find that the least amount of steps that we ask them to take in delivering their work or their reflection, I find it to be better. You know,
Yeah.
and so at first I was doing 3-4 different folds and all of these things, and Jose helped me to streamline some of my linking and even continue to work on that as we speak.
And then I have another question, possibly for Tammy and Jose. In my face-to-face class, I have been working, I was team teaching with Paul Clement, and so we started this, and I'm doing it in my class this semester. I work with James Pierce, and my students, what we do is when they do their presentation, we embed it in augmented reality. So the final presentations, it's like a little exhibition of their trigger image, like, you know, if you're in a museum and students go around with their cell phone and they download Arlen as a program and they trigger the presentation on their own cell phone. If I were to upload the trigger images on Blackboard, could people at home move their cell phone with Arlen open on a screen and trigger a presentation? Have you ever tried that?
Is there a scannable code there?
No, it's the image itself. It's you know, that's why it's so seamless and it's so elegant and so beautiful. But maybe I'll ask James also to come up with a code, because I thought I would make. Okay, I thought I would make.
Yeah. Do you want to comment on that, Jose?
Sure. Yeah, Isabella, the videos that are being created, in this case, the workflow is something like, you know, the students are creating the video using Adobe Spark. Then I prepare. We have a video tutorial for them on how to use the Adobe Spark. Again, we try to minimize the technology. The focus is actually the research and the presentation of the, you know, and preparing to create this video. Once the video is created, then the link is placed on the Padlet for exhibition. In that case, this is the step where the virtual reality comes in. Then instead of putting the video in the Padlet, the video then will be placed in that virtual setting, so that the student is actually walking in the museum, and then when they see the video with the VR goggles, then, you know, and so putting the video that was created in Adobe Spark into your virtual environment by embedding the video inside the virtual world, and then they put on their goggles, and then that's how they will walk through. And then when they see the video, they'll click, it'll play. So in that sense, it will work with what you're already doing. But that's basically the workflow that we've been emphasizing. On the presentations from today are just, you know, the students are selecting a topic, then they go into Google form and they place the topic. The professor approves the topic. Then they move on into then Adobe Spark. They watch the video tutorial on how to create. And the reason why we chose Adobe Spark is because it's very simple and easy to use. We try to minimize the learning curve and minimize technology part. And then the videos are created and then posted on the Padlet for exhibition.
Okay, thank you so much.
We should move on, but maybe.
Can I just say something? I forgot to mention the whole Adobe Spark part, which Jose creates a video that's embedded in my class that shows the student how to use it. And I did thank you, Jose, but it's Adobe Spark is free and easy to use. So my whole goal was to get them to do something that would be easy for them, instead of like all of the new, like, you know, brand spanking shiny new technology. That's not what it's about. So this is more, and I apologize for not mentioning, like Jose's video, so many students have seen that because they've used Spark in other classes, you know. So thank you, Jose, for doing that.
Sure.
Yeah, Spark is included in our Adobe license, so that's a great tool.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that, Nancy.
Yeah, I do have Spark as well in the in my Padlet, for the project for the storytelling aspect. So that's a very useful tool.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Martin and Nancy. So why don't we move on to Mario, since I know he's teaching at 2 o'clock and we only have about 20 minutes left, so.
No, thank you anyway. No, thank you. I would have very little to add besides sharing some of my students' work. We have been wonderful in my case, not because of the technology, but their way they use it, which is more important. What I'm going to do basically is to share with you. I started using the Adobe Spark presentations about 2 years ago. So, and I started using myself mostly in Adobe Spark. I use the web pages. I use my class presentations using Spark. So I'm a champion of the technology. And now I am trying to combine. I am in a new project trying to combine using Padlet, which I use, I think, from many years ago, to do sort of an scaffolding to develop a research method for the students, because they struggle at the end of the semester trying to they don't know what a variable sometimes is, or a factor, or how to create a hypothesis or a working hypothesis. That sounds very technical, more like Felix's field, which is social sciences. I am in languages, but also in culture, and that's part of also of our interest here. But I'm saying this, I'm sort of beginning backwards, because I think it's a great idea, for instance, to use Padlet to build the little by little the research process in the case of the students. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you for the course that I perhaps the course that I started using the video presentation earlier is a course that I teach online, even though I teach it previously face-to-face. It's called Revolution as a Spectacle, Mexico, and it has to do with the cultural production in Mexico during the times of the revolution, which is a span of almost a century. But anyway, so I'm going to share, if I remember.
So I will be talking about architect Luis Barragan and how he incorporated Mexican hues, cultures, and influences from Mexican artists and architects into his architectural projects. Luis was born March 9th, 1902, into a wealthy family in Guadalajara, Mexico, where he studied engineering and graduated as a civil engineer and architect. He had a unique outlook towards the designs of buildings and the spaces in between them. His work had influenced contemporary architects visually and conceptually, and he revolutionized modern architecture in the country with his use of bright colors reminiscent of the traditional architecture of Mexico. He was a Pritzker Prize-winning architect, which is known as the most prestigious prize an architect can get. He received this in 1980. He also often calls himself a landscape architect, being that he places as much emphasis on the exterior and surroundings of a building as he does on the interior. So now we're going to start looking into his architectural projects and how they always tie back to the Mexican culture. Now we start with Casa Baragang, which was his home and studio. This project played a vital role in the conservation of the surrounding culture. It pivoted the direction of development in the area and the extreme use of raw materials to the inhibition of the colors of Mexican architecture make this a global yet local prodigy. Here we see his prominent use of flat planes and light. Large windows open up to the back to the garden, while in the front there's high windows that are used to let light in but maintain privacy. He has found many of his furnishings at craft.
Who went through Felix Candela, that's the architect also that created they constructed some of the most important buildings for the Olympic Games in 1968 in Mexico, and became very, very controversial, not only but so the student sort of covers part of that. It's a very long presentation, so let it run for 1 minute just to give you an idea how the students combine images with the music background, of course, and especially I think the way they structure their ideas is very interesting. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Gabriela High School, and this is my final presentation. For my final presentation, I thought I could study and talk about one of the artists mentioned in Unit 6, since we were unable to study it with more time and in depth. The work of the Spanish and Mexican artist Felix Candela intrigued me, so in this presentation I will be talking about the architect, as well as his work. First of all, Candela was born in Madrid, but immigrated to Mexico and acquired double nationality. He graduated from La Escuela Superior de Arquitectura Madrid in 1935, and after he applied for the Real Academia of Bellas Artes San Fernando for a travel scholarship to Germany, where he intended to study the theory of shell structures. However, his plans didn't work out due to the start of the Civil War in Spain. During the beginning stages of his career, Candela wasn't able to work on thin shell structures, which was his passion. Instead, he had to create conservative structures that fitted his client's taste. This continued until 1950.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can think about and I choose show one more, the one with Frida Kahlo. That pretty much show you different topics, how the students treat the user that is part in a different way, with less or more images, but for me the most important is the way they structure their presentation to prove that they are really. I like to see the command of the topic that they have, and as the presentation demonstrated. Okay, you can run it if you don't mind. For me.
Hello and welcome to my presentation, in which I will be speaking about how Frida Kahlo challenged the normacy of gender roles for women and across all art forms during her time that is also still practiced today. I will be first talking about her appearance in Lola Bravo's photograph, Portrait of Frida Kahlo in 1944. In Miss Bravo's portrait of Miss Kahlo, we can see the delicate nature that her body language displays for the camera. Something like this is what artists would tend to do to show women in any art forms. Another artwork that shows the intimacy is Frida Kahlo's self-portrait as Juana in 1943. This painting is very beautiful, and it shows the emotional damage a man can have on a woman's mental health. This makes everybody, both creatives and viewers, think that women are nothing more than just a pretty thing to look at. Her other self-portraits also demonstrates how she was doing in the contents of her feelings. Frida did not want to be seen as weak just because she shows a normal human trait that men won't because of the machismo behavior they were raised on. Although her husband, Diego Rivera, cheated on her multiple times, he was basically the first man to give her a platform to display her resistance to being just a flower in men's eyes. In Diego Rivera's mural at the Mexico City Secretary of Public Education, he has painted Frida Kahlo in the center of the Mexican Revolution. She is dressed in a masculine manner as she is passing weapons to soldiers. This was the beginning of the world seeing her as a tough woman, then a delicate flower in a vase for their entertainment. She created her own painting that was heavily influenced by the feud between Mexico and the US in her work, Self-Portrait Along the Borderline Between Mexico and the United States in 1932. She continues to display herself how she wants in her self-portraits. She also brought irony to this work because of the very feminine dress she is wearing on a battlefield. To backtrack to the painting shown before, this painting of Frida shows the wealth she has with the exotic features that coexist with her in this work, such as the monkey.
If you don't mind, I just wanted to share one last presentation, especially because I don't know if I keep back my, or you can do it for me, you help me with that, and I really appreciate it, Jose, thank you very much. Go to the main menu, because I was able to get from to a student from my Caribbean course, since Felix talks about the Caribbean. Go to the main menu, and please look down to the one that it says home, and then go to the Caribbean Imaginary Encounters, no, exactly. So you can see this course really, for me, I particularly use the final presentation in this course. I mean, look forward to use it and use it with a lot of conscience as an instructor, because this is an honors course, and one of my students are really excellent students and produce wonderful work. And it was hard for me to decide which ones, but in this case, the presentations, I would say, are much more analytical in a way, because they have to deal not only with referring the story, or let's say music in the Caribbean, but they have to, if you scroll down, you will see the topics. They can go from music to, the young lords of some in the Caribbean culture in New York. They can do also the political and cultural movements in New York, the case of the coolies and the Indians in cultures in the Caribbean, and so on and so forth. I got the permission from 2 students back, so I'm wondering why you don't show the one, Jose, that says Caribbean Rhythms, which is one of the presentation that is on sort of a relation of Caribbean music, and I got permission also from merengue. No, that's not the one, the previous one. I also get permission from this one. I want the other one, Caribbean Rhythms. The Caribbean Rhythms. Okay.
Merengue, rumba, salsa, timba, and bachata are some of the most known Caribbean rhythms. I have grown in a Latin household in which the Caribbean music has been present as long as I can remember. For this presentation, I've decided to discuss the different genres in this region, its origins and influences, and some of the most famous artists for each one. The history of Caribbean music originates from the history of the Caribbean itself. After the landing of Christopher Columbus in 1492, series of violence, slavery, and rage spread across the islands, followed by Spain, France, England, Denmark, and the Netherlands. The native cultures were colonized by these European empires. As a consequence of the spread of sugar plantation in the region, a great need for workers was created. Africans were forcibly brought to these colonies and sold as slaves to work in the sugar and coffee plantations, resulting in replacing native music as well. The African presence has left a profound influence in Latin American cultures through music. Almost all genres in America have its roots in the traditions of African communities who came to the continent in the 16th century. Some of the musical influences that were brought over from Africa were heavy use of percussion instruments, complex rhythmic patterns, and call and response vocals. To understand the different rhythms in Cuban music, we must acknowledge the differences between each genre and their influences. All 4 were originated in different historic moments. Rumba is a complex genre encompassing 3 traditional forms: guaguancó, columbia, and yambú.
Anyway, Jose, you can stop it. I don't mean to, but the other student did also something beautiful with the history of merengue. Like Nancy, I really have a lesson back. I think the most beautiful thing the students give is, as I tell them, it's a gift to me, because it's sort of, they cover, like the students said, aspects. I encourage them to cover aspects that I don't cover in class because I don't have the time, or the dynamics of the class, whatever. And I love that, because they really do it. And like with music, we barely touch upon that. And I have these 2 students that did beautiful work in Caribbean rhythms and also in the history of the merengue. I learned about merengue that I didn't know. Even I come from a Caribbean country, Venezuela, but I didn't know about but anyway, so as you can see, it's a whole variety of topics. And I think Adobe Spark is wonderful in a sense that allows the student, again, to be creativity. They love something that is not only challenging intellectually, but also aesthetically challenging also in a way. So they have to, to really work on that. And I value that. And I said that's part of your presentation. Not only finding organizing the knowledge, the information, but also creating sounds, images, and words together to make sense. That's a very challenging. Even as a professor, I know that. Anyway, I want to thank you, and I'm sorry about the problem with the technical problem, so to speak. And let me just stop sharing so you can. I think now we're back to normal. Thank you, Jose. I'm sorry. You see how useful technology is. Jose saved my day. Thank you. And also wanted, before I go, thank Jose. I think he knows me from 4 years ago. He was the one who, when he opens to me Adobe Spark presentations, web pages, that changed the way I said, I can do this. I can do this for my Mexican. And he ended up changing most of, I wouldn't say my philosophy of teaching, but certainly questioning the way I can share knowledge now, combining all these. There are 3 key elements in Adobe: images, words, and sound. And if you know how to combine them, really, you can be very effective, not only from the side of the student, but also from a also personal perspective. I use in my classes Adobe Spark almost in every class, even in my Spanish. I'm trying to now get into my language courses with Adobe, but let's see what I can do in there. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Jose, for being so helpful.
Yes, cheers to Jose, and thank you all for taking the time to present. These are really beautiful projects. And thank you for getting the student permission. I'm sure that was a lot of work in itself. So I guess we better let you run, Mario, but thank you all so much. And we'll post this hopefully we can post this for later viewing. I know a lot of people wanted to be here, but we had other events going on, but we'll send out, I hope, Antonia, we can send a weekly tip that includes a link to this so people can view it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It was great. Again, thank you for inviting me. Thank you. And it was great to see the work of such a great work from my colleagues. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for presenting.